Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a stack of insights straight from senior military service leaders, Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, and Space Force.
Yeah, this is from their talks at the AI Expo in Washington just this week.
Exactly. And our mission here really is to understand how the battlefield is fundamentally changing because of all this rapid tech advancement.
And crucially, how each branch is trying to transform itself to keep pace.
And you're right, this isn't just about, adding a few new gadgets.
No, not at all. These leaders are talking about really profound shifts. Strategy, how they buy stuff, procurement even, how they train and use their people.
It's like taking that crazy speed of change we see in the commercial tech world.
And trying to apply it to defense, which is a whole different ball game.
Absolutely. And what immediately jumps out from what they said is this kind of core tension. Well, how do you deal with your really expensive, complex, high-value military assets being, increasingly vulnerable to cheap, widely available tech?
That's a perfect place to start. General Randy George, the Army Chief of Staff, he hit this head on.
He did, with that really sharp, very recent example.
The Ukrainian attacks on Russian air bases, June 1st, 2025.
Yes. And he specifically highlighted how cheap those Ukrainian drone systems were.
Compared to the value of the Russian bombers they took out. Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate example of that cost asymmetry problem, isn't it?
Totally. And he pointed out that this immediate real-world issue highlights a massive hurdle for the Army. Procurement agility.
Getting things fast enough.
Right. He mentioned the pressure, everybody wants us to buy the same drone for the next 25 years.
Which just doesn't work anymore.
Not when the tech and the threats are changing almost constantly.
So his idea for moving forward.
Using and adapting commercial drones and other stuff that's already out there and doing it fast and at scale.
Yeah, that's a huge shift in thinking, right?
Yeah, it is. He gave a great example that's apparently working already. They converted a commercial truck into an infantry squad vehicle.
Okay.
And the soldiers love it. Why? Because they were actually involved in modifying it for what they needed.
Ah, that makes sense. That bottom-up innovation.
Exactly. And they're looking at adapting off-the-shelf interactive glasses, too. Stuff you or I could potentially buy.
Leveraging what's already out there.
Yeah.
He also stressed how innovative soldiers are these days.
Yeah, how they just kind of get the technology intuitively.
Which brings up that human element point you made.
Right, integrating industry engineers directly with soldiers in the field.
So they see the problems firsthand.
Exactly. He said that direct interaction really sparks fresh ideas.
Okay, so that's the Army grappling with speed, asymmetry, commercial tech. Let's shift gears to the Air Force. General David Alvin.
He talked about their role, emphasizing speed and agility, not just for projecting power overseas, but also homeland defense.
Right. He mentioned their part in the nuclear triad, the bombers and ICBMs.
Crucial for deterrence, yeah. And also their role in the planned Golden Dome air defense system.
Golden Dome. Think of that like a big layered shield for the U.S., right?
Pretty much. Protecting against incoming threats.
Now, here's where the Air Force gets really interesting, thinking about future capabilities. They're planning the F-47 6th-gen fighter.
Yeah, the next big thing in fighters.
Yeah.
But even more critically, I think, is their focus on human-machine teaming.
Using manned and unmanned aircraft together.
He put it pretty strongly. He said, I believe human-machine teaming is a door we need to push through very rapidly.
Rapidly. He sees it happening elsewhere.
Yeah, he hinted that other industries are already proving it out, so the military needs to catch up, basically.
And they're also experimenting with AI, artificial intelligence.
In some crucial areas, like data fusion, pulling info together from lots of sensors.
Okay.
And predictive maintenance, figuring out when a plane needs fixing before it breaks, even helping with strategic decisions.
Wow. So what was his big takeaway on AI?
He said they need to keep our imaginations wide open. AI is potentially a game-changing technology for keeping air dominance.
But there's always a but.
But only if they don't get, in his words, trapped by the vestiges of the past.
Meaning, don't let old thinking limit how you use the new tech.
Precisely.
Speaking of changing how they fight, let's talk Marines. General Christopher Mahoney discussed their force design.
Right, and force design, it's not just about buying new stuff, it's their whole plan for how the Marine Corps will be structured, equipped, how they'll operate in the future, especially in contested areas.
And central to that, he stressed, is talent management.
Absolutely critical. Getting Marines with the right skills, figuring out how to keep them in the service longer, and giving them really realistic tough training.
Because the best tech is useless without the right people trained the right way.
Exactly. And the actual steps they're taking are pretty interesting. Making the force more distributed, so less concentrated.
Harder to target.
Right, enhancing maneuverability, making them harder to detect, broadcasting a smaller signature.
And giving them longer range weapons, including the ability to hit ships from the shore. That sounds like a big deal.
It is a significant tactical shift. Plus, better sensors for awareness and targeting and equipping Marines with more autonomous and robotic systems.
So again, we see those autonomous systems popping up.
It ties back to that fundamental change in how they operate. And, General Mahoney spoke really passionately about the young Marines serving today.
Yeah.
Said they're the reason he stayed in for 38 years, their motivation, resilience, all that.
It's quite a statement.
Yeah.
Okay, moving over to the Navy. Vice Admiral James Pitts.
He laid out their plan, focusing on capabilities for a potential, high-end fight.
And again, we see some familiar themes.
Yep. Long-range fires, robotic and autonomous systems. And also emphasizing training LVC, they call it, live, virtual, and constructive training.
Mixing real-world stuff with simulations.
Right. But he also highlighted a massive challenge for the Navy, shipbuilding.
Yeah. That's been an issue for a while, hasn't it? Cost overruns, delays.
Backlogs in maintenance, modernization. He stressed it needs a whole-of-government, whole-of-nation effort to really fix the shipbuilding industrial base.
You can't have the future fleet if you can't build and maintain the ships.
Pretty fundamental. And the future fleet he sees is a hybrid one.
Manned and unmanned platforms together.
Exactly. They've even set up a special disruptive capabilities office just to speed up development and scaling of robotics and autonomous systems.
And they're looking for more flexible funding, too.
Which echoes what the Army was saying, right? Needing faster, more agile ways to fund and buy this new tech.
Definitely. Did he mention specific uses for these systems?
Well, one interesting defensive idea he mentioned gets back to that asymmetry problem.
Okay.
The hope is to use less expensive weapons, maybe things like high-powered lasers or microwaves.
Directed energy.
Right. To counter cheap threats, like those one-way attack drones we talked about earlier. Instead of firing an expensive missile at a cheap drone.
Fight cheap with cheap. Makes sense. Okay, finally, the Space Force. General Chance Saltzman.
Their role is absolutely critical, he highlighted, especially in building out that Golden Dome defense system.
How so? What's their specific piece?
It's heavily focused on sensing, using space assets to rapidly spot threats. And then, crucially, moving that data fast, getting quality information from the sensor to the decision maker, or maybe even to a weapon, like a space-based interceptor.
So like the eyes and the nervous system for that whole defense architecture.
That's a good way to put it. And he strongly underlined the need for ongoing R&D, working closely with industry partners.
He called the innovation in the U.S. commercial sector. What was it?
One of our great asymmetric advantages as a country, leaning on that commercial innovation.
And they have a really interesting way they're thinking about talent, their people.
Yeah, this was fascinating. They bring in top people, obviously highly skilled, but they don't want those skills to just languish, as he put it.
To get stale inside the military bureaucracy.
Right. So they're trying something pretty unique, sending their guardians back out into industry for short stints.
Like 6 months.
A year. Yeah, 6 to 12 months. The idea is they stay current, keep your credibility, see what's happening on the cutting edge, and then bring that knowledge back into the Space Force.
Wow, that's a novel approach to keeping pace with tech change through people.
It really is. He also mentioned they're setting up a Futures Command later this year.
Okay, what's that for?
Its job will be looking ahead, maybe 12 to 15 years, assessing the future operating environment, figuring out emerging threats, and how to counter them.
And again, involving industry partners heavily in that process.
Definitely. Industry is key to their development plans.
So when you step back and look across all 5 services, what are the big takeaways? What does this all mean?
Well, you see this clear consensus, right? That rapid technological change, especially pulling from the commercial world, is just fundamentally reshaping warfare.
Yeah, no one's debating that.
And they're all trying to figure out how to integrate autonomous systems, robotic systems. They're exploring this human-machine teaming idea.
And they all recognize that the people side talent management training is absolutely crucial to make any of this tech actually work.
Right. And at the same time, while they're trying to build these future capabilities, new fighters, hybrid fleets, new force designs.
They're still struggling with the old stuff.
Exactly. Legacy systems, slow procurement processes, industrial-based challenges like those shipbuilding backlogs. It's all happening at once.
So it's this massive transformation driven by tech, but also kind of constrained by the existing structures and problems.
That sums it up pretty well. It's not just about buying the next drone model. It's about fundamentally rethinking, well, almost everything. Strategy, people, how they even acquire stuff in the first place.
We have covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, hearing straight from the top leaders of the Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, and Space Force.
Yeah, getting their perspective on this huge technological transformation that's underway.
And how they're trying to adapt their strategies, their capabilities. It's pretty clear the future battlefield is going to look dramatically different.
Shaped by drones, AI, autonomous systems, and this much, much closer relationship with commercial innovation.
Which really raises an important question for you listening to think about. If the speed of technological change is accelerating so fast, and they're relying more and more on commercial tech, how does that fundamentally change the whole traditional model of defense acquisition? The way things have always been bought and planned.
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? How do those old processes keep up?
Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the military's tech transformation.